Hi, welcome to Numbers Don't Lie, Marketing Insights for Accountants. I'm Brad Pinzer.
And I'm Janelle Sikora. Thank you. Welcome back. What are we talking about today, Brad?
Today we're going to talk about values, core values, and philosophy.
Awesome. And by the way, if you hear the snoring in the background, it's not because I'm bored with the conversation, because I actually think this is a really fun, interesting conversation. But I do have a puppy laying in my chair behind me who is happily snoring, which is better than barking.
Griffin,
Yes.
Mr.
G Money,
Griffin.
as we call him.
Yes.
That's his rapper name.
Love him. Love him.
So let's
So,
talk about core values. And why is that important from a marketing perspective for accounting firms to care about?
well, I really think I know this sounds like a very dry subject, and I used to feel the same way. And the thing is it's so important because you really need a way to differentiate yourself from every other company out there. And there's so many companies that do exactly the same thing and they have the same services, whether it's like, as an accountant or any business, right? And so the way to differentiate yourself from your competition is through what you believe in, what your values are. And it's not just values covers so much, right? So it's not just like what you personally believe in and like, you know, your political views and all that kind of stuff, but it's also, you know, what you believe in terms of like what technology somebody should use and why they should use it and how they should go about running their business and the choices that they should make and things that they should do around that. Like there's so many things. Those are just a few examples, but
Hmm.
like for like our business, for instance, like in as marketers, as advisors to our clients, one of the things that is really something that we believe in is that every business should have a CRM,
Hmm.
right? So if you don't have a CRM, sure you can get by without a CRM, but you're missing out on so much opportunity and so many things are falling through the cracks. And so like we believe that every business should have a CRM
Hmm.
as a very simple example, right? So that is our kind of our philosophy of it's one little piece of a larger philosophy, but that is something that's we're putting out there and saying like we believe that you have to have this, right? So if you believe in that, then you believe in the same thing that we believe in, so that's a good connection. If you don't, then you're probably not a good fit for us because that's
Hmm.
what we believe in, and so it's just never going to work out. So it's a way to show what you stand for and to really to differentiate yourself from everybody else. So the more that you can really introspect on that and define what those are for you, and then you're able to communicate that out into the world through all these channels, all the social media and and just in talking stuff like that. That's how you set yourself up uh, as a different from everybody else. Because if there's if you have somebody that's looking for an accountant and there's three different accountants and they're talking to three different accountants and they're all saying the same thing, we do this and this, and how are they going to decide? They're going to pick one person over the other because of that rapport, because of they like that person. But why do they like that person? What are the things about it? And so what that person believes in and how they obviously how they speak and all that kind of stuff. All these things add up, and so like the values and your philosophy on business and things like that. That's a very important factor.
Yeah, I want to take it back for just a second. So, when we think about the market that we live in, which is accounting firms, there are over 80,000 firms in the United States that sell accounting services. Now, if we want to boil that down a little bit and say, okay, well, what about CPA firms? There are over 50,000 CPA firms. So, And the interesting thing is, in today's digital world, um, a lot of firms, whether they're an accounting firm, a CPA firm, a combination thereof, they're not just wanting to do business in their backyard. They're wanting to do business across the United States, as an example, sometimes even internationally. We work with a lot of them, and it is increasingly difficult to differentiate yourself. And one of the things that we run into on websites, as an example, they all sound the same, right? They're elusive words, they're empty, they all sound the same. It's all about me, me, me. And I think that when you brought this topic up and you're like, oh, we should talk about this, I was like, this is actually a great idea, because from a marketing perspective for a CPA firm or an accounting firm, if you are selling the same services as somebody else, hence you're kind of living in a bit of a red ocean, the best way to differentiate yourself is, what are the things you believe in? What are your core values? And this is a great time of year to be thinking about it, because this is a time of year where people are thinking, 2025, how can we get off on the right foot? Well, and people are doing software changes right now. Accounting firms do a lot of software changes fourth quarter in anticipation of tax season, those that do taxes. And this is a really good time to do some planning from a what are our core values type of an exercise. And not just fluffy things, but like you said, what do we believe? Do we believe that every business should be using QuickBooks Online, or do we believe that every business should have a choice between QuickBooks or Xero or FreshBooks or whatever's out there? What do we believe as a firm in terms of a tech stack, um, our processes, and also think about what clients don't work for you anymore, right? What clients just wear you out? What clients do you not want to do business with next year? And I think that's really important, because you and I joke about this, but we said this early on, that we won't do business with anybody we don't like, because we have to really align with who they are as a business, how they do business. And that relationship has to be really well aligned with what we know the results we can drive for them. So um, I just think this is a very timely subject to talk about. And I think it's an exercise in intention that all firms should probably sit down and really think about this and document this before the end of this year.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's like the example you just gave, right? So like we won't work with somebody that we don't like, right? And we can tell just from the initial conversations that we have to getting to know them. And we're like, after we talk about
Mhm.
it, and we're like, not really feeling it, or there's something about that person that we don't like,
It
or
sounds silly, but
right,
it's
or and it's just intuitive, just from years of experience. But
right.
also on the flip side, we are like, oh my god, I love that person. Like
Yeah.
we can, so that's something that we feel. But now when I think about it in like our philosophy and our core values, it's just ties into that. And I'm just saying, like, if you formally kind of like write it down and say, I believe in all this stuff, this is what I'm all about, with the
Mhm.
intention, then you're able to kind of see why so and so is not a good fit anymore, or isn't a good fit
Yeah.
to begin with, right? And I just feel like it's important to do that, and it allows you to say no to things,
Yeah, that's
so
the
that
key.
you know
It allows you to say no. But I think from a differentiation factor, it's huge too. So I think about some of our clients that we work with. And we've got a client that is known as, they're known as the fun accountants. And a lot of times that's because people will come to them terrified, because nobody wants to call their accountant any more than they want to go to the dentist and get a root canal. Let's just be honest, right? It's not, you're never looking forward to that conversation. Um, but yet, this firm has been able to differentiate themselves by completely putting their business clients at ease and actually joking with them, having humor, and being known as the fun accountants. And then we've got another firm that is similar in another part of the country, but they've also done a really good job of injecting fun, injecting some brand icons in there that are really fun and lend to their tone and their values. And then we've got firms too that differentiate themselves because they allow their passion to show through. For entrepreneurs, as an example, and there are different ways to be able to market what your core values are. But as I think about and picture these three firms in my head that I'm just talking about, they're so very different. And the reason they've been able to differentiate themselves so well is not because they do all different services. It's because a lot of the core values that they've established and the belief system they've established that empowers them to build the right relationships with ideal clients and attract the ideal clients for them, the clients where they can really drive results.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately at the end of the day, it's really being super selective with who you work with, who
Mm-hmm.
you accept as your client, and just knowing that they're the right fit. And I think this is a really good way to do that. And then it just feeds on itself. But I definitely think having that, the values and your philosophy on business and how you go about doing your accounting work, and when you're able to communicate that,
Mm-hmm.
that's really the difference. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like it really, really is the difference, and people, can learn it through how position yourself, how you market, how the words that you use
Mm-hmm.
to communicate what you do. I think it's such a subtle, it's really a subtle thing in there, but there's many ways to put that into your, into the
Mm-hmm.
words that you need to say.
Yeah, and I think it's, that also goes to it drives results. So I think when you can effectively communicate your core values, it differentiates you. It also gives you that filter and empowers you to say no to people who don't align with those core values. But then along with that, the people that you do choose to work with, because you are aligned, it gives you the opportunity to drive results for them. So you're not working with people that you can't drive results for. And I think one of the things that we talk with a lot of accountants about is, you're more than a transaction. You're more than someone who churns out financial statements, updates somebody's books, churns out tax returns. Think about the relationship that you have with your clients in terms of the results that you're getting for them or the progress that you're helping them make towards their goals. And you can do that best when you're really well aligned with a client, in terms of values. Your values match with theirs, and therefore you have a way better opportunity at driving results for them.
And I think a really easy example, and you just mentioned it earlier, is with like the whole QuickBooks thing, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
you have, there's accounting firms where they only use QuickBooks. So if you're not using QuickBooks, currently, or you're not willing to use QuickBooks, like we're not going to work with you, right? Which is
Mm-hmm.
fine if that's how that is your value, that's your philosophy, that's how you operate. Nothing wrong with that. And then there's the other side is like, I'm agnostic, right? Like I don't care what platform you're on, right?
Mm-hmm.
That that's just a simple example because technology is super super important, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a simple example of how this is your value or your philosophy on that particular thing. And so like when you're communicating that, that's how people are able to either align with you or or rule you out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's also how you're able to attract the ones that are the right fit for you you
Mm-hmm.
know
Mm-hmm.
as a simple example. So like that's just an easy way of looking at it. But there's, so you do that with every single thing that you feel very strongly about. That's
Right.
critical.
Yeah, and I know we wanted to make this kind of a shorty episode, so I think that the big takeaways from this are, um, be intentional, sit down, really talk about what your core values are with your team, and establish those so that everybody knows and everyone's on the same page. Use that as some differentiation. Use that in your brand story. Use that to determine who are the clients that you want to serve and that you want to drive results for. And then, as importantly, use that as a filter that empowers you and your team to say no. Because you aren't for everybody. You don't want to be for everybody. You want to be very specific in who you want to work with. And if they don't necessarily align with you, it's going to feel weird. You're not going to drive results for them. It's not going to be a great relationship for either party. So I think, when you originally brought this up, talking core values, I'm the same. It's like you learn early on in business, you should have core values and your vision and your mission. And you hear about it so much, it starts to sound kind of cliche and fluffy and, oh, what does it really mean? But honestly, I think since you and I have been in business together, it's been what has guided us, even unknowingly, right? But that's resulted in great things for us. So I think that marketing companies are a lot like accounting firms. There's many, many, many thousands of us out there. And the number one way to really differentiate yourself and give yourself a filter where you can choose the best clients that you can get results for are to really get clear on those core values and the things that you believe in.
I agree. And so also it's not just with your clients and who you're going after, but it's also internally with your team and your values for your
Yep.
business and how that works as well. But yeah, I mean, it just seems like, oh, here, people that have their core, companies that have their core values, and like it's like just seems like it's just something that's written down and it's not really that
I
meaningful,
don't pay much attention to it.
or you
Yeah.
don't pay attention
It's
to
like an
it.
exercise.
And I mean, I kind of felt the same way too,
Mm-hmm.
but then it's like after, it's just kind of really recently that I was like, oh my God, I see how it really works together with everything that we've talked about in terms of like, building a business with intention. I mean, it's really, if I think it makes more sense when you're really intentional with what you're doing, and
Mm-hmm.
wanting to go after a very specific market. It's more important,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
agree. When you choose the business and you're intentional about the business that you want to serve and go after, then you're not stuck with any business choosing you and you being frustrated, unsatisfied, ungratified. So I think with that, do you have any final words of wisdom on core values, beliefs?
Um, I don't know if I have anything in addition to add to that, other than just to really just think about it. Just think about like what it is that you really believe in when it comes to serving your clients, and
Mm-hmm.
just business in general. Write that down. And one last thing I want to add is that we're recording this. It's election day,
Yep,
2024. So lots of I guess excitement and anxiety for all of us. And we, regardless of the outcome, I'm super excited for the future. We're in a
absolutely.
very, very exciting time right now, for business
Yes.
particularly. And so I think the future is bright.
I do too. And on that note, I agree with you very much. I appreciate everyone listening today. Hopefully, this was thought provoking, and gave you just a little bit more insight into what you need to do to get 2025 kicked off on the right foot so that you're doing business with the customers that you want to do business with. And so that those who are aligned with you and who are the perfect clients that you can serve and drive results for are able to find you. So, we will be back next week with a very exciting guest. So, with that,
Super.
everyone have a great day. Go vote, and we will talk to you soon.